If your tattoo studio's busy, there's a good chance that you're actually leaking money and you don't even understand where. Most tattoo studio owners believe that if we're busy, the business must be healthy, and that belief feels good. It sounds logical, and it's usually wrong. Let me tell you a quick story. I worked with a studio recently that everybody would call successful. They were fully booked, had some absolutely fantastic artists who all had full diaries, none of the chairs were empty, and things were just chaotic. So we looked into their emails and we actually found there were over 30 unanswered emails. Some of them were actually older than 3 months. Now this wasn't spam and it wasn't time wasters. It was real people who were looking for actual real tattoos. When we worked out the average job value of those 30, it came to around 400 quid per tattoo. Now, I'm not going to finish the maths for you. You can understand that's already a pretty big number, and here's the dangerous part. This studio wasn't failing. They wasn't failing at all. They were a busy studio, but busy wasn't protecting them from losing tens of thousands of pounds. Busy actually hid the problem. They actually felt like things were going well. Busy felt like proof of the fact that business was running great. Busy felt like safety, but busy is just motion, and motion without structure leaks a lot of money. And that's the rule that most tattoo studios actually learn too late. I call it the leaky bucket rule. And if this already feels uncomfortable to you, good. That means you're paying attention to what I'm saying. So hit the like button, because this is exactly what most studio owners need to hear before they try to grow. Because next, I'm going to show you why this isn't rare, and why it's not a bad owner problem, and why almost every single busy tattoo studio I've worked with has the same hidden leaks. Now this story isn't rare, it's common. And once you start looking for it, you see it absolutely everywhere. I've seen tattoo studios that are booked out for weeks, but still anxious about money. They're always on, but never relaxed. They have a growing demand inside the business, but they have absolutely no sense of control. And from the outside, they genuinely look successful. And on the inside, they do feel fragile. Now, here's what they all have in common. They're busy in public and they're chaotic in private. Messages come in from absolutely everywhere. They're getting messages over email and Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. Walk-ins are coming in, referrals, and because business is flowing constantly, no one slows down to ask, is this actually being handled or reacted to in any way? So things slip, not dramatically, kind of quietly. An enquiry that someone made waits until later. A follow-up never happens, a deposit isn't chased, and a client assumes that silence means no. Now multiply that by weeks, then months, and suddenly money hasn't just disappeared, it's evaporated. In one studio, we found 30 real enquiries unanswered across 3 months. Not because anyone was lazy and not because they didn't care, but because everyone was busy. And that's the part most owners miss. Busyness creates false confidence. When the chairs are full, you assume that the system you have works. And when artists are slammed, you assume nothing is being missed. But high demand hides massive leaks. The more enquiries you get, the easier it is for little enquiries to disappear in the noise. And this is normal. It's because no one teaches a process for enquiry handling. No one teaches ownership. No one installs structure early. So studios rely on memory and hustle and goodwill until the volume increases, and that's where cracks start to show. Now, this isn't a bad business problem, genuinely isn't. It's just a missing layer problem. You build demand first, structure comes later, if it comes at all. Which means if you add more marketing right now and you don't fix the issue that causes this money to be leaking, you make it worse. You pour water into a bucket that you haven't inspected. And that's why this matters, because once you see the pattern, you stop blaming yourself and you start fixing the real issue, the leaky bucket rule. I call it the leaky bucket rule because if your tattoo studio doesn't have systems, the more demand you get, the more it leaks quickly. And that's it. No buzzwords, no theory. A bucket doesn't fail because you didn't pour enough water in. It fails because it has holes. Tattoo studios are no different. Most owners look at empty weeks and think, we need more bookings. But the real danger shows up when the calendar is actually full. Because demand creates noise, and noise hides these mistakes, and mistakes turn into leaks. Leaks don't announce themselves. You don't get alerts for unanswered emails or missed follow-ups or silence that pushes clients away to other artists. The money doesn't leave loudly, it just never really arrives, which is why busy studios stay confused. They're working harder and focusing on tattoos, yet nothing feels secure. And that's not because they are better artists. It's not because they need better marketing. It's because the business is being held together by people's memory, effort, and urgency. And those things don't scale, but systems do. Before you chase growth, before you spend another pound on marketing, in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly where the holes hide and why most tattoo studios miss them, even when they're staring straight at them. All right. If the leaky bucket rule is true, the only question you can ask is, where are the holes? Because this is what busy studios do wrong. They try to grow the top of their funnel while the bottom is draining away. So I'm going to walk you through the most common leaks I've seen in tattoo studios over the last few years. And for each one, I'm going to give you principal, real examples and the takeaway. Leak 1 is enquiries without ownership. If no one owns the enquiry, it genuinely dies by default. And here's what most studios accidentally do. The inbox is everyone's job, which means it's nobody's job, which means it gets handled when people have time, which means it's never handled. What this looks like in real life is emails sit, DMs get answered because they ping on your phone. So emails get ignored because they're not urgent. Enquiries get skimmed and then forgotten. So clients send 2 messages, then they disappear. And it's not because you don't care. It's because your studio is doing the default human thing. Respond to what screams the loudest and ignore what whispers. An email whispers. But email also contains high intent people who are ready to book if the process feels smooth. So if you want artists to take responsibility, you have to give them a definition of what handle means. Handle your clients is vague. Reply within this amount of hours with these next steps. That is a system that an artist will follow. If an inquiry doesn't have a named owner and a clear definition of what done looks like, it's a leak. Now, most owners here immediately say the next thing. I'm too busy. And I'm too busy is not a reason to avoid systems in any way. I'm too busy is the reason you need systems. You're too busy to structure inquiries. You're basically saying, I'm going to keep letting random amounts of money fall through the cracks in my business. And that's not a personality flaw. That's just a capacity problem. So what does too busy actually look like? Replying between appointments is a big one. Half answers or forgetting to ask key questions like placement, size, reference. Telling people to message me again if I forget. It's not a system in any way. And here's the honest truth. When you're busy, your brain becomes a worse admin, not better. And it's not because you're incompetent, because you're human running a shop. You don't need to become an office manager. You need a simple minimum standard that makes the business predictable. Artists regularly say, I can't do everything. And you're right, you can't. But even when owners accept that, they usually try to fix it with a more dangerous idea. Shared responsibility is a big one because shared responsibility feels fair, but it performs terribly. The studios I've worked with over the years love this sentence. Artists are responsible for their own clients. And that sounds right until you see how it plays out without structure. So this is what happens in a real shop. Artist A replies to a message in 20 minutes. Artist B replies in 3 days, and artist C forgets completely. But the owner has no visibility, and clients get inconsistent experiences from different people in the same business. So booking rates become random, and the owner ends up saying, my artists don't take responsibility. But responsibility isn't a vibe in the business, it's an actual process. If you want consistent outcomes, you need consistent handling of messaging. So here's the key distinction. Responsibility equals who owns the outcome. Process equals how the outcome happens every time. Most studios have responsibility without process, and that's why it breaks. Now, this isn't you being controlling in any way whatsoever. This is you protecting the reputation of your studio. Clients don't experience the admin style of artist A, B, or C. They experience your shop. Those artists represent your shop with their different styles. So adding one simple rule to your studio changes everything. All enquiries get acknowledged fast, all bookings get a clear next step, all deposits get tracked, all follow-ups get assigned. You don't need perfection, you just need baseline consistency. So fair isn't the goal, predictable is the goal. Share responsibility without a system is a leak, and that's the leaky bucket. Now here's where a lot of studio owners cope with that chaos. They will say, if they really want the tattoo, they'll get in touch again. If they want it, they'll chase us. Good clients don't chase, good clients choose. If clients want the work, they'll follow up. But no one wants to admit, I'm dropping the ball. So we tell ourselves a story. We say, they weren't serious clients. But what's actually happening? What silence communicates to a client is, they're not interested in me, they're disorganized, booking with them will be stressful. And busy people, good clients, don't want friction. They want smooth, professional, and easy. So they move on from you, not with a complaint and not with any drama. They just quietly go and book somewhere else. Studios have told me, look, clients will book other ways. And some will, yeah, and many won't. And you will never know which ones you lost because the leakage is silent. That's why it makes it dangerous. Clients don't ghost you. Your process ghosts them first. So that silence they experience is a leak. And the last rationalization I hear for these leaks all of the time is, well, we don't get much from emails anyway. Well, look, you don't get much from what you don't protect. When a studio says emails don't work, I almost always find this. The email in the business is unmanaged, which means replies are late, info is inconsistent, the client doesn't know the next step. Nothing is tracked, follow-ups do not exist. So yes, in that situation, emails don't convert because the experience is shit. But the thing about email leads and email clients, they are regularly high intent people. These are people who usually plan ahead, they have money set aside and they want professionalism. And they're comparing studios seriously. Email isn't a quick DM. It's something people intentionally go out to fill out because they're serious. Emails aren't always loud, yeah, like Instagram DMs and Facebook messages. They're a lot more quiet, but because they're quiet, they get ignored. So the studio tells itself, see, email's pointless. It's a self-fulfilling leak. This is what a non-leaky email experience looks like. You get a fast acknowledgement, even if the full reply comes later. You get a clear next step, questions, consult, booking link, deposit. You have one consistent voice and tone so the studio feels professional. A follow-up rule so silence doesn't end the conversation. Now, you don't have to reply instantly. You just have to reply predictably because predictable beats perfect. All right, quick pause on that. If you're watching this and you're thinking, yep, that's my studio, this is exactly where most owners don't take the next step. They agree and then they just go straight back to reacting. That's why I built Economics, which is my free tattoo business academy. Not to motivate you and not to hype you up, but to give you structure that actually fits how tattoo studios run. Inside the academy, we break down how to assign ownership to people without becoming the bottleneck yourself, how to stop inquiries relying on memory, how to protect bookings without micromanaging artists, and how to plug leaks before you spend the money on marketing. This isn't business theory, it's not corporate systems, it's just simple rules that remove chaos from your business. The goal isn't to make you work harder, it's to make the studio stop needing you everywhere all at once. And the best part, it's free, because I don't want to see good quality studios struggling over simple business practices. So if you want to stop guessing where the money is leaking and start building something that actually feels stable, join the academy. The link is in the description below. Take 5 minutes, get inside, have a look around, then come back and finish this video. All right, back to it. Now look, let's slow this down and lock it in because this is the part most studio owners skip. And here's the equation that explains why being busy doesn't feel safe. Demand plus no structure equals stress. Demand plus structure equals stability. And the tattoo studio version of that is busy plus leaks equals broke. Busy plus systems equals control. That is the leaky bucket rule. Most tattoo studios don't fail dramatically. They don't shut their doors overnight. They stay open, they stay busy, and they stay uneasy. Money doesn't disappear in one big mistake. It leaks out through unanswered enquiries, missed follow-ups, unclear handoffs, and silence that pushes clients away to your competitors. And because the calendar looks full, no one hits the brakes. They just keep running faster. So here's the mindset shift that should change everything. Successful shop owners stop asking, how do I get more clients? And they start asking, where is my business quietly leaking? That question alone creates control. Now look, let me be honest with you. Most people watching this will nod and feel validated and move on. They'll stay busy and they'll stay reactive, and 6 months from now, the stress will feel exactly the same, but a small group of you won't. A small group will pick one leak. They'll pick one system, one rule, and they'll fix that before chasing that growth. And if you're in that group, here's your next move. I want you to like the video because it tells me to keep making content like this. Share with anyone who you think this is actually going to be good for and this will make a difference to. And go join the free Tattoo Business Academy at Economics. Again, the link is in the description below. Go and click that and check it out today. I want you to choose one place in your business where money is leaking and protect it this week. This is week 1 for a reason, because next week, we're going to talk about the most dangerous leak of all of the things that I've experienced over the last few years. That's owner dependency, and that's week 2's video. So see you in the next video. Thanks for this week. Again, like and share the video with your friends. I'll see you next time.